Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hometown Heroes. I'm Mike Kenichi. I'm very honored tonight. We have a very special guest. She is currently a senior at Derby High School. She's been a state champ, a national champ, a coach, you name it. She's done it all. It is my honor to welcome to the show Bridget Wright. And Bridget, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's a real honor.
Thank you for having me.
So, Bridget, let me ask you, how did the love for cheerleading begin? I know it's kind of been a family thing. I know your sister Megan did it for a lot of years. So, just talk to me a little bit about how cheerleading came about for you.
So, when I was little, I remember watching my sister do cheer for all types of schools like Massac and Derby. And my love for cheer just really sparked from watching her. And when I joined our Derby Pop Warner cheer team, we became 4-time national champions and all stuff like that. So it got to the point where I just fell in love with the feeling of family involved with cheer.
Right. And let me ask you, I mean, you grew up knowing a lot about the history of Derby, Ansonia, the Valley, stuff like that. A lot of family members have a lot of ties to it. Did you kind of know what Derby was like as far as a sports town went?
I had no idea when I moved here. I used to live in Ansonia, so we knew of Derby being more of a rival. And when I came here and they introduced me to cheer, and my best friends told me, "Hey, like you should start cheering. Tumbling and stuff. So, get involved." And my mom was always saying, like, "No, don't do it," because we were a little nervous. But eventually got around that they realized, I can actually tumble and I can be a good asset, I guess, with everyone else. So it just came about that it was just meant to be, I guess.
Right. And how old were you when you first went out for cheerleading?
I was in 5th grade, so I had to be probably 10 or 11.
Right. And that's kind of a late start for you because I know a lot of these girls kind of cheer right when they're in first or second
Yeah.
grade. It's kind of something they've been doing. So even though you had a late start, I mean, you've accomplished so much. Talk to me a little, though. How was the first year of cheerleading? Because I know that one of the things that's very challenging about cheerleading is the coaches, they have to be on top of you girls a lot because they can't have anybody get hurt and stuff like that. So they're very, I don't want to say demanding, but they expect that you girls are your very best because they don't want anybody getting hurt.
Yeah, so it was an adjustment, definitely, I would say. It was very easy though to make friends, and it was very easy to form a bond with not only the girls but the coaches too. Like Lauren Anderson, she was so welcoming and she believed in every single athlete that they had potential. And that was almost every single coach that we had. We had probably like 12 coaches and they all believed in every athlete, and it was such a good feeling to know that they believed in me. So it was very easy to just grow as like a family together.
Right. And how would you say your first week was? I mean, was there a point where you were like, I can't do this. This is just too rough. I mean, was there ever a point where you're like, I don't want to do it anymore?
Yeah, there was some points where I just didn't think that I was going to be able to do it because it was so scary. And I was never used to being in like sports. So being out of breath, like, scared me a lot. And especially because, I didn't have the endurance that the other girls did. It was very hard for me. So there were some times where I wanted to give up, but I had like my parents kind of telling me, just do it because you never know. I tried T-ball when I was little and I tried all the other sports, but somehow cheer, I just walked right in and I fit right in.
Now, I know Jessica Blackwell is your current coach, and we'll get to her in a little bit, but who was your first coach that you had in cheerleading? I know it was a while ago, but can you remember who it was?
There was Lauren Anderson, Brittany Anderson, Sam Slowick, Tony, DeGennaro. I had Barbara Hubbard, and those were my first set of coaches, and they will always mean so much to me, especially Coach Tony. She was like my mom in cheerleading. She was so loving to me. And I remember there was one practice where I got hurt and I started crying. And she was the first coach that just took me right out, and she was just like a mom to me.
Right. And what would you say was the most difficult thing for you your first year of cheer? I know you talked about the endurance, and we're going to talk about that a little more after. But what would you say? I always look at how how amazing it is that these girls do the things they do, because when they throw somebody up in the air, I grind my teeth because it looks like somebody's going to get hurt, but
Yeah.
they do everything so well. But what would you say was probably the most difficult thing for you in the beginning?
I would say kind of making friends. I feel like I was always a very shy kid, but it was the fact that I really fit in and I had the tumbling skills that everyone else did. So I didn't feel as much of an outcast, but it was very hard to make friends for me because I was very shy and I didn't want them to be almost like scared of me. And I always thought, people might think I'm really weird for my condition. So I hid it a lot. I think that was the hardest part, was trying to find where I fit in.
Right. And just talk to me a little bit before we get into competitions. Talk about cheering your first football game, because that's always a real fun experience for a first time cheerleader when they get to do that. You see the high school kids do it at football games. So naturally, you want to be able to do that someday yourself. So, how was that first Pop Warner game that you got to do when you cheer?
Oh, so fun. I mean, Derby Pop Warner football has had such a reputation, and cheering for football was a huge eye opener for me. And ever since then, I fell in love with like cheering at games. And I was so excited to cheer at, high school football games because, every Friday night I would go with my family to, support my sister cheering at like the Friday Night Lights type of game. And
Right.
then every Saturday morning we would cheer at Pop Warner, and I was just so in love with like the atmosphere that everyone had, and especially Derby Pop Warner. It was so much fun. I loved it.
Right. Seeing Megan be a cheerleader, I'm sure that made you want to get out there as much as you could. Just talk to me a little bit what it was like watching her cheer when you were a young kid, because I'm sure a lot of that inspired you to go out as well.
Yeah, it was crazy. I started to look like her and I started to want to dress like her, and I would always try and wear the same things to practice that she did. And every night she used to show me videos from her practice, and I would be like, oh yeah, I can do that. And I would just push myself to kind of be where she was at the moment. And my family got us a trampoline, and I would always try and have her come out with me to show me how to do like a tuck and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because all I wanted to do was just be exactly like her. And watching her cheer, it just pushed me to just want to do more, almost more than her, and just, try and make her proud.
Right. Now, your older brother is quite a few years older than you, but did he play sports? Were you able to follow him when he played as well? I mean, it seems like the whole family has been involved in some type of sport throughout your lives.
So he's the accident prone sibling of us. He played Derby High School baseball, and then he also played in Sonia like Little League football. Um, so he was always in those sports, and that's why I knew I was going to Derby High School. There was no other place for me to go. But he, went through some like back surgery, stuff like that. So he had to end his seasons a little earlier than like me and Megan were.
Right. And it probably wasn't as hard for you and Megan because, again, you were really little at the time. But for him, playing at Ansonia and then coming to Derby, that's a little bit of an adjustment, because you go from loving Ansonia and now you got to try to embrace Derby and its a rival and stuff.
Mhm.
So that had to be tough
Yeah.
for him in the beginning.
Oh, I can only imagine how he was feeling. And we saw like the very dramatic difference. And now that my grandfather coaches for Ansonia, it's like we have to love Ansonia and also hate it at the same time. So
Yeah.
it's a weird situation to be in.
Right. So let me ask you, Bridget, talk to me about, did you compete in competitions that first year of cheerleading, or was it more of an introduction for you?
So we cheered in competitions. I did. We went from Southern competition in Hill House, and then states in Hill House as well. and then regionals in Massachusetts and nationals in Orlando, Florida. And I think it was probably the best experience of my life, seeing how cheer really is. And I never really got introduced to the atmosphere at competitions, but the first one I wanted to cry the whole time because I was so scared.
Yeah.
And seeing, almost 500 people watching me on the mat, it was probably the most scariest thing, but it was also just an adrenaline rush, and I loved that adrenaline rush so much. It was so much fun. We ended up being 4-time national champions, undefeated national champions with the highest score out of like 300 teams.
Wow.
It was absolutely insane how we put Derby on the map for Pop Warner and cheerleading.
Yeah, it really is. And when you see, because you figure you're a small town in Connecticut and you're going to Florida for nationals, as good as you may think you are, you think to yourself, well, the judges are never going to vote for this small little town. So that's a credit to the girls, the coaches, everybody involved, because to beat, like you said, 300 teams, I mean, that's just unbelievable.
It was so unbelievable for me, and it was like bittersweet because my last year, it was so upsetting to know that I'm leaving these coaches that made me the cheerleader that I am today. And I would not be where I am without all those coaches just believing in me and just pushing me to be the best that I can be. And I forever thank them for my love for cheer.
Right. And Bridget, how old were you when you won the first national title? Were you 12 or 13, I would imagine?
Yeah, I was about 12 because my first year, we ended up losing at nationals, but that just completely turned us around. And I mean, we took it very hard, and I can't find a single video from that year. So we took it very hard and we used it. And then we came back and we were undefeated national champions. And that's when we won like highest score of the week, highest score in just in general. And that was unbelievable for me, and I still can't believe it.
And you were at an age at the time. So say you were 11 years old when you were runner up, and then you're 12 years old when you win it. So you're at an age where two things could happen. One, you don't really appreciate the magnitude of it as much because you're a young kid. Or two, it's the other way. When you do lose or when you want to win, it's very heartbreaking when you lose and so gratifying when you win because you work so hard. So just let me ask you, what was the feeling like when they announced that you girls were the national champs?
I was in shock. I could not believe it, and it felt like I was in airplane mode because, like, when I think back to the exact moment where we won, I remember I was on FaceTime with my sister because she wasn't able to make it, and when we won, she always says to me that we blew her eardrums out because of how loud we were screaming. We were so happy, and we, like, looking back at the routine that we did that year was just insane, knowing exactly how I felt coming home on the plane, because we felt like we were just unstoppable. And every year after that, we won, and we were never ever gonna give up that feeling. And that feeling was probably the best feeling I've ever had in my entire life. And I
Right.
wish I could always be back in that position.
And that was probably your second or third year, I would imagine. So you
Yeah.
tasted victory, triumph right away. And the thing that
Mm-hmm.
is really cool about it, Bridget, is you can't win a national title like that if every girl isn't doing their part. Everybody has to contribute. Yeah. So when you win a national title like that, you know that every girl that was out there contributed, where sometimes in the bigger sports, say baseball, somebody hits a big home run and then somebody may not play a lot, stuff like that. They feel like sometimes they don't contribute. But in this case, in order to be national champs, all the girls had to perform that day to the best of their ability, and that's really a credit to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we really stood by the saying, like, you win as a team and you lose as a team, and that team was like the dream team, and we were the team to beat. And like, I will forever miss those girls. Like, those girls were so welcoming and so funny, and I have so many memories from Pop Warner, and we still are in contact today. I mean, they're amazing girls, and almost all of us still are cheering now, and all of those girls are such good athletes now, and to see where they are like right now in high school, even though we split up, we still remember each other, and I love those girls till the day I die. They're amazing people.
Right. One of your current teammates, and I know her well, Leah Lovington, she would always tell me all the stuff you girls would have to do just to get to Florida. And I used to say to myself, wow, these poor girls, they got to go to cheer practice. They got schoolwork to do, homework, and then they got to try to raise money to make this trip to Florida. So just talk to me about that, Bridget. Was it stressful at times? I'm sure as a young kid hanging out with your friends, canning at Heavenly Donut or Stop and Shop, that was also fun, even though it was stressful as well.
It was, it was almost fun to me because little me, I never knew about stress. I mean, I was just kind of doing what they told me to do. They gave me a can and told me just to say, please help support Dairy Pop Warner. That was like brainwashed into me just saying that. But at the time, I wasn't really stressed out. But now in high school, I understand it a little more. And I'm sure it was so much more stressful for the coaches because, I do coach for Pop Warner now. And I can't even begin to understand how stressed they were. So little me, I really wasn't ever stressed out. I was just kind of doing what, wherever my mom took me.
Right. And Bridget, winning one national championship is awesome. Winning the second one is a bonus, and winning three is just off the charts. I mean, you can't even imagine that. And you girls were able to do that 3 times. Just talk to me. I mean, did it ever get old to you, or was it more exciting each time around when you won it?
I think it got more meaningful the more times that we did it because we kind of
And
we never
I
really
apologize for a second. I think you won it 4 times. I said 3, so
yeah.
never mind 3. Wow, 4.
No,
So
you're
that's
good.
pretty impressive. Yeah.
So we always went in there not knowing what we were gonna do, and we never ever went in saying, "Oh, we're gonna win it. We're gonna be fine." There was always competition that was as good and sometimes even as better from us, and we never went in there being, a little selfish. We always had a meaning to it. Because every year we always had our ups and downs, and there was always a girl that would get injured or something happened at their home life, and every year it just got more meaningful as we grew older, and we understood that like life isn't promised and stuff like that. So over time it got, it meant more to us, and especially our last year we were on live TV, and we've never been on live TV before.
Right.
As we're stunting, we have cameras going in and out of our faces, and it really showed us that this is what cheer is and this is what we're doing, and it just meant so much to us the more time came.
Right. I'm sure some of these cheerleaders carried over to high school with you, and we'll get to them. But talk to me about in Pop Warner some of the teammates you had that really stand out to you, who played a big part in not only as a teammate of yours, but also as friends.
So I'm still friends with one of my first best friends, Brooke Giuliano. I grew up with her since second grade. I knew her before I started cheerleading.
Yeah.
And we had like a little trio going on. We had Abby LeBlanc that is now in Maine. She still does cheer. And then me and then Brooke Giuliano. So we were 3 best friends, and me and Abby joined cheer the same exact year. And Brooke's been doing it for years before us. So we're still best friends, and she really had a big impact on me, not only just being such a positive person, but such a determined person, and she still is, and she will always have like a place in my heart. And I know forever that she's not just like a best friend for a time being. She's always going to be in my life no matter what, and I will always love that girl. She is so funny, and she's like every person that she meets, she believes in them no matter what they're going through, and she's just so powerful, and she's just extremely positive, and she brings so much positivity to everyone. And Abby, she left when we went up to high school.
Yeah.
And that was probably the hardest thing that me and Brooke have went through, is losing her. because we were friends since second grade, and she was such a good person as well. She was exactly like Brooke, and we were just inseparable. So,
And that's the other thing too, Bridget, that a team needs. It's one thing to have talented performers, but if you don't have positive people on that team who pick know how to pick someone up when they're down and encourage them and stuff like that, it doesn't really make a complete team. And I think that's why you girls were so successful, because it wasn't just a team, it was family.
yeah, it was. And that's what we really looked at each other as. And we all went to school together. And we would joke around all the time. But when it came to practice, we were on it. I mean, Lauren was definitely tough on us too. So we knew not to joke around. But that's what we really liked about it, was that it wasn't any type of joke. It was so serious. And I didn't expect that. I had no idea what I was walking into on my first day. But being with the team and knowing that everyone's out of breath in this part of the routine, or knowing that, okay, we all have homework after, we all understood exactly what each other were going through.
And now I would imagine Lauren was there throughout your Pop Warner career. It sounds like she was. So just, you just mentioned she was tough, but a big influence. Talk about her and how important she was to this cheer program.
I don't I don't think that she understands how much of an impact she has on everyone. Every single day, my team misses her so much, and it's because she knew exactly what she was doing and exactly, how to bring a girl up into an amazing cheerleader, and she shaped every single one of us, in not only a cheerleader but as a person, just to never ever give up. And she never, you know, would disbelieve in a girl. She always pushed us to exactly where we want to be. And it taught us how to maturely handle situations and, have self discipline. And every single time before, I get lazy in a routine, I always think to myself, what would Lauren say? What would Coach Lauren say? And that's what kept me going all the time in routines was, what would Lauren say? Stuff like that. So
Right.
she had a really, really big impact on, cheerleaders and, us as people.
Right. And, out of those 4 championships, 3 out of those 4 that you girls won, you went undefeated. That's another thing that's just impressive, is the fact that you go 3 times without losing. I mean, that's unbelievable. And, you just talked about Lauren and the impact she had. And right there, that says a lot about her as a coach, because yes, you need talent, but you girls aren't going to achieve all that stuff without good coaching. And I think herself, the other coaches, that's a real testament to them and the work they put in, because you girls wouldn't be that good without them working you girls every day and making sure you're on top of everything.
Exactly. And now that, I'm looking back at like how we used to handle practices. I mean, we used to run a mile before practice, and, Lauren would actually run behind us to make sure no one fell and no one, started walking. And now that I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, like, I mean, I'm out of breath running even one lap. And, looking back at that, it's crazy how much we really strived for a win for not only us but our families and, all of our coaches
Right.
and the town too. The town was really there for us a lot.
Exactly. And that's important too, because when you have the support of the town, it makes things like going to Florida and stuff you need to do a lot easier, because they're helping in that aspect of it. And that makes it just a lot less stressful for you girls.
Yeah.
So, Bridget, let's talk about high school. And I mean, you're not alone in this, but talk about just the first year of high school was smooth sailing, I'm sure. And then these last 3 years with COVID, I mean, it's just been such a roller coaster ride for you girls as far as cheerleading went. Talk to me, though, about freshman year. How was that? Obviously, you had to have a new coach in Jessica. And I think Jessica has coached kids like Leah, Madison McCarthy, and those type of girls, because she worked with them a lot. But it was a change for you girls going from Lauren to a new coach. So just talk about that for a little bit.
So when we first entered high school, we had we call her Simba. Her name is Rebecca Bell. we had her for our first year,
Yeah.
and also my sister was a coach too. So they worked as a team, and we actually ended up getting second in states. And it
Yeah.
was very hard to transition from Lauren to, you know, another coach with not only just like the practices were definitely different. We weren't running miles before.
Yeah.
You know, it was definitely different and it was hard, but you know, we ended up getting a hang of it. And then we saw, you know, our old coaches coaching other girls. And some of us were actually jealous. We were so sad because we, you know, we missed them so much. But it
Yeah.
was different because Simba still had an impact on us differently than like Lauren did. And we realized at, you know, that age that, you know, we're not going to have Lauren growing up and we're not going to have, you know, Tony and Brittany and stuff like that. Um, Coaching us throughout our entire lives, and even though we wish, but we realized that, you know, Simba also had an impact to just look on the bright side of things. I mean, we didn't come in first in every single competition, and you know, it was
Right.
really hard for our Pop Warner girls, which was my grade. It was very hard for us to lose because we were never used to that. But then it just got to a point where we had to realize, you know, life isn't just about winning, it's about just, you know, getting up and doing the right thing, that the, you know, your next step. And we realized that at a very, you know, young age, and it was tough, but we had to get used to it. And she always taught us to just look on the bright side of things and not look at, you know, whether you're getting first place or 13th place.
Right. And I would think too, Bridget, that one of the great things about Lauren as well is you knew that she worked you girls hard, but that just made things so much, I don't want to say easier for you, but when you got to high school, you knew what to expect. You knew there were expectations. You knew that you had to perform at your very best, and that coaches are going to be tough sometimes, but it's nothing personal. It's just trying to make you girls better cheerleaders. So I'm sure even though it was an adjustment to go from Lauren to Simba and then to Jessica, it's still, you girls still had the attitude that we're going to do whatever it takes to be our very best.
Exactly. And we, you know, it was very hard for us to lose, but we just had to get up and keep moving on. I mean, that was the only thing that we could do. And Simba really, really taught us that, you know, it's time to understand, you know, our faults and just use it for the next time. She was, oh my God, she was such a positive person, and she still is. And
Yeah.
that's what we loved about her, was that she was so positive and she was so funny, and she knew exactly what she was doing as well. And then we had my sister, who just pushed us to our limits and probably passed them too. And now that we, you know, look back at that year, we were like, wow, like we did really good.
Right. So talk to me about freshman year. What was that experience like, just as far as competitions went, cheering at football games? Because you girls didn't have an actual field that first year. You had to travel to Oxford a lot, had to obviously go to the away games. How was that first year like for you, just on a personal level?
Well, it wasn't like my sister's year. You know, they used to cheer on that dirt path and
Yeah.
all of that. But when we had to go to Oxford, it was definitely different. I was kind of like, well, this isn't what Megan did, you know.
Yeah.
And it was, but it was fun. It was, you know, it was just like a football game. You know, we didn't win everything, but we didn't lose everything. So I was happy with all the outcomes and just cheering there, and you know, sometimes making a fool out of myself if I messed up at a cheer and Simba would just laugh at me. It was like memorable, and you know, every day I kind of miss it. Now that I'm a senior, realizing like, you know, tomorrow's actually my last basketball game and it's emotional.
Yeah.
Um, but I miss freshman year a lot because of how much I had ahead of me. Um, and all we used to do was just laugh. I just remember laughing almost all the time at, you know, the football players and, you know, just us messing up sometimes. And that was like the fun part too.
Yeah. And I'm sure just like those, if you had a Friday night game, the Friday of school was so exciting that day, just to be a young kid getting to experience all that. You always had something to look forward to. You knew what your Friday nights were going to be. If you occasionally had a Saturday game or a Thursday night game, you knew what that was going to be like. So
Mhm.
it had to be a great time to be a kid at Derby High School back then.
It was so much fun. I mean, the spirit that we had in that school my freshman year was unbelievable. And, you know, from the first day of school, we actually performed. And as a freshman walking into a gym full of big kids
Yeah.
and having to perform, a dance that we learned at, cheer camp that summer was embarrassing to me. I was scared. And but it was so much fun with the girls because, people couldn't hear us talking. So we would, tell each other, just keep going, just smile. And it was just so much fun. And the spirit that we had like that Friday night, oh my God, it was insane. I mean, the school was decked out. And, when we played Ansonia, we knew we were going to lose, but there was so much spirit in that school. There was like beat Ansonia signs everywhere.
Yeah.
And, we would put like Ansonia and then just a really big red X. And there was just so much spirit that I miss. And, when it got to junior year and there wasn't any, it was a big difference. But I miss
Yeah.
it every single day. I would do anything to go back to freshman year.
You talk about Ansonia too. That had to be an interesting week for you, Ansonia week, because your grandfather, Andy Mancini, who is currently an assistant coach at Ansonia, you basically have to, you're a cheerleader at Derby. You want to win. He's a coach at Ansonia. He wants to win. And I have to believe that you and him probably had a lot of batter that week, or, banter and talking about the game and stuff. And I'm sure you probably said, let's bet or something like that on the game, maybe a pizza or something. So just talk to me a little bit about that week with your grandfather and stuff.
I don't think you understand how much of a rivalry it was. We would not talk to each other for weeks. We would usually have like a family party, the week before, something like that, where we had to see each other. And we would not speak to each other at the party. We would just say, no, we're going to win, stuff like that. And I knew we were going to lose, but I still had my bets with him. And, the day before, it was so bad. He called me, spammed my phone in school, and he was just like, we're going to win, stuff like that. And then the game came and I got no message from him, nothing. And, I would actually text him before, just being a nice granddaughter and just saying, good luck, no text back, nothing. And I know he read it. He would just, oh my God, it was such a big rivalry, but it was so much fun. And, I would always meet him out in the middle of the field every time after, and he would just laugh. He would just laugh in my face, not say a single word. And I would be like, well, at least we scored, 6 points. I mean, it's okay. So,
Yeah.
it was fun though. It was a lot of fun. And it was still like that in the 7-on-7s and all that. So
Right. So talk to me about this, Bridget. What's the difference between competitions in elementary school, middle school, as opposed to high school? What's the difference, would you say, in doing high school competitions?
I think that the atmosphere is kind of the same. But the difference is mainly the score sheets and how we get scored. It's definitely harder in high school than it is in Pop Warner. Because in Pop Warner we would score 99s and 98s, and now we're scoring 86s, so it's harder to get a better score in high school. But the atmosphere is the exact same. We still have signs going out for Derby, and we still have our little Derby crowd. So it's definitely more so different in the detailed aspect, but atmosphere wise, exact same.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about the COVID situation when everything got shut down, because that's a big time of the year where you girls compete and stuff like that, and it affected everybody. Kids who were in basketball tournaments, wrestling tournaments, indoor track. It affected so many kids and the stuff that they do. I still think back to those kids who lost their spring sports. It was just terrible. But talk to me how it affected you, and were you able to stay active with cheer in some capacity when COVID hit?
So when COVID hit, what was it? I was basically getting ready for outdoor track. We completed our competition season, and I was getting ready for outdoor track. And the day before, we were going to start, we heard that the school shut down. So we were very confused, and we were like, no, COVID's just like the flu, like we'll be fine. But 2 weeks went by, and the next thing you know, a month went by, And I was so upset because I was so excited for outdoor track. Track does have a little place in my heart. It does. And I love track. It was so much fun. Um, and, you know, we were planning on breaking a lot of records. And when we got shut down, it was just tears and tears and tears. And we were so, like, we were just demolished. And then,
Yeah.
you know, after that year went by, um, and, you know, we heard that we can't compete in regular things, but we can do it on Zoom meetings. And we were like, what's the point of that? Like, why are we going to do that? And
Yeah.
we were very upset. And it was different. You know, we had to record videos of our competition, and we ended up getting second. But you know, it was different. It wasn't the same, and I was really upset because you know I was so ready for it, and I knew, like, you know, I'm gonna come back stronger this year. I'm gonna get more skills, and then I just wasn't able to, and it felt like someone was physically holding me back, and I was very upset when track ended because my coach, Coach DeLugo, he's had a significant impact on me too.
Yeah.
He's probably one of, you know, my favorite people in the school, and he's so determined, and he believes in kids no matter who joins the team. If it's someone that is, you know, 4 feet tall and he looks like a stick figure, okay, you're gonna go pole vault. You know, he believes in every single kid, and I've never met a person like him before. And when he, you know, heard the news, I can't even imagine how he felt.
Yeah. I mean, it was just terrible for so many reasons. You girls finally, this year felt like a full year, at least for you girls, as far as getting to do everything. Just talk to me about going into senior year, because junior year everything started to get back to normal a little bit, more so in March. But just talk to me how this senior year has been for you. I know a lot has happened to you on a personal level and the team as well, but just talk to me how this year's been going.
It's been going really fun. It's definitely weird to be back in the competition aspect of it. We just had a competition yesterday and we did better than we thought. I mean,
Yeah.
even though we didn't place, we were only 5 points away from first place, and that just shows how close it is this year. And we were only 0.1 away from fifth place. It was absolutely insane. And this year's been going amazing. I mean, with knowing I'm going to college next year, it's a little stressful, but I'm excited. I mean, when we first started applying to colleges, that's when we started doing our competition routine, and that was probably the most stressed out I've ever been before.
Yeah.
But you know, when Coach Jess would tell us, like, you know, we're not going to lose this year, we're going to do amazing, and you know, I'm not going to guarantee you guys anything, but this is probably going to be your best year that you've ever had, and you know, we see it. We've been doing amazing with 7 girls. I mean, it's crazy how much only 7 girls can do. So it's been insane. And I was nominated for All NVL and All State. So I find out if I got All NVL this week, and then All State, I think in March. So.
Right. And you talked about all NVL, all state, but one of the highest honors any kid could ever get in any sport they play is be elected a captain. And you were elected co-captain, I believe, this year. Talk to me about the feeling that you got when Coach Blackwell told you you would be a captain.
So me, Brooke, and Alyssa, we all share being, you know, head captains and stuff like that. No one's like above each other, so I think it's really nice to actually work with all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Well, all 2 of them. So, you know, she told us at the Valley Diner, and I remember, you know, we all had a job. So I was in charge of like community service because I volunteer at like an animal shelter, and I do a lot of community service stuff. And Brooke was in charge of keeping everyone really positive, and Alyssa was in charge of keeping everyone, you know, in line with their schoolwork. So we all had, you know, jobs to fulfill, and it was really nice to know that, you know, these girls I grew up with my entire life, and you know, we're all just going to work together. We're just going to come together. So it was really rewarding to know.
Right. And Bridget, the first 40 minutes of this, we learned so much about you, how talented you are as a cheerleader, student, everything that you do, the commitment and dedication you give. But what I think a lot of people don't realize is your road to cheerleading almost did not happen. And in fact, if I remember correctly, before you had even turned 1 year old, most doctors didn't think you were going to make it to see your first birthday. So talk to everybody a little bit about, the last several years of your life, what you've been having to deal with personally.
So, when I was born with a congenital heart disease. Basically, I had to go through open heart surgery around November of 2005. And when they found out, it was actually my grandfather who discovered it, not Andrew Mancini, but my mom's stepdad.
Yeah.
And he's a doctor. So we all kind of realized that me crying every single night since I was born and squatting a lot, not being able to breathe, was just not right. So when he listened to my heart, he found out there was some congenital heart defects in it. We sent me to Yale, and they basically did my surgery. And it turns out that, there was a lot of stuff going on. A lot of my arteries were not working correctly, and some were, not even there. And I had probably like a few holes in my heart that were not supposed to be there. And they couldn't close one. They tried their hardest, but it was very hard to get to. So it's still bleeding a little bit. And they're still keeping an eye on it. And now I have a scar right down my chest that's very noticeable for people to see if I'm wearing shirts and stuff. So it was hard to grow up. But I had to grow up fast because, doing breathing treatments a lot and, just going to the doctor every single year and just learning a lot about myself and other people that have congenital heart disease. I had to grow up and I had to learn very fast how to handle myself and how to handle, my health and take care of my body. So most doctors did not believe that I could have made it past my year mark. And somehow I did, and something kept me here without arteries and with holes in my heart. Something kept me here, and now I'm living on an artificial pulmonary artery. So a lot of surgeons have no idea how I made it.
Right. And just talk to me a little bit, Bridget. How hard is it to do the stuff that you do, the activities and stuff? Because I'm sure that sometimes your endurance is difficult having to deal with stuff like that, but yet you've been able to maintain it. And I mean, look at all the accomplishments you've made. Just tell me, how hard has that been, though, and how challenging has it been to try to keep up with cheerleading, track, and all that stuff when you have this condition?
At first, it was very hard for me, but my body adjusted to it well. And it was, there's still some tics here and there where, I can't breathe correctly, and it takes me a little bit to get my breathing under control. But, my body adjusted to it perfectly fine. And we were surprised. We thought, one day, like my lungs were going to collapse, or one day I was just going to drop dead on the mat. But it was, my body adjusted to it perfectly. And I mean, there is some hard times, I can't breathe correctly. And, if I have like a panic attack or an anxiety attack, it's very hard to get my breathing under control. But my body adjusted to it. So it's very easy to deal with it now. But, when I was in Pop Warner, it was hard. So.
Right. And I know you're only a 17-year-old kid right now, so it's hard to really kind of put it all into perspective of how you manage everything every day. But let me ask you, do you think about it a lot? I mean, is it something on your mind all the time, or do you just say, you know what, I have to live my life. I can't control it. I can manage it. So I'm just going to live my life and not always think about it.
It actually pushes me harder. When we're waiting to go out, I kind of remember it. And I think every single competition that I've been to, that's what's pushing me harder to compete better. Knowing that, hey, like I wasn't supposed to be here. And now I'm in Orlando, Florida, getting ready to perform in front of 3,000 people. And I think that's what kind of pushes me every day to go to cheer, to kind of say to myself, listen, like I wasn't supposed to be here. And some people didn't make it past this terrible disease. So I'm going to do it for them and myself. And that's what kind of keeps me going, is knowing that people in my position, some people didn't unfortunately make it. And that's just what kind of gives me the confidence just to do it for everyone.
2 weeks ago, I think it was, Bridget, you were awarded with a very prestigious award. I think it was called the Spirit of Sport Award. Talk to me a little bit about that, because that was a very nice story. I know it was all over Twitter, things like that. I even know, talking to your grandfather, he was very emotional, which I've never seen him get emotional. So when I saw that, I could just tell how special you are to so many people. Talk to me about receiving that award and what that meant to you.
It meant more than the world to, I think, my entire family. I knew I was nominated beforehand by our new athletic director, Coach Cosgriff.
Yeah.
And he nominated me because one time I was sitting in his office talking about cheer in general, and we just got into like a really deep conversation. And I told him everything about it, and he got emotional. He started crying. And I was like, hey man, like I don't know you, and you're crying for this. And it was, that's when me and Mr. Cosgriff became really close. And he nominated me for it right away. The first thing he said after I told him, he's like, I want to nominate you for this award. So it took about like 2 months, and I kind of forgot about it. It like slipped my mind a little bit because of colleges and stuff. So at the basketball game, we were going to halftime, and our coach was like, "Don't go anywhere." So we all sat down, and all of a sudden, I have this CIAC guy calling my name up there, and my whole family was there. And my mom told me beforehand, "Hey, like everyone's coming because they're finally able to," and stuff like that. So I didn't think anything of it. And the next thing you know, they're all down there just sitting with me, and I'm in front of a gym of all these people getting this award that I won, and that I didn't think I was going to win.
Yeah.
So.
And that had to be just a great moment. Had to be a great moment for you to share with your family and friends as well. I mean, just describe it. What was it like when they announced your name?
It was emotional because I think my entire life just like made sense to me at that moment. A lot of people won't know their purpose in life until they're, older. But I learned my purpose when I was a year old. And, it's kind of crazy to me that I know my purpose already. And I immediately thought of, I think, everyone else and not me. I think I thought of all these kids that went through congenital heart defects, and all these kids that never made it. And that was like my first thought, and my first instinct was that, like, that's what this is for. And that's what, I'm representing. No matter how many interviews I get and stuff like that, they matter more than I do. And that's all I want, is just for everyone that never made it to be recognized.
Right. You talked about your coaches, your athletic director, track coach, about how they've been so supportive, your teammates and stuff like that. And that makes it a lot easier, because you're not alone with this thing. But two people that have really been probably your biggest fans and have been so supportive, and it's not easy for them to go to have to go through what you've had to go through, because they've had to watch it, and that's your parents. Just talk about the impact they've had and how important they've been to you throughout your life.
So when I was little, my mom worked in a hospital most when I was little. So I was around health my entire life. And my dad was a firefighter. So when I was actually going through my heart surgery, his firehouse tried to do a boot drive, and all surrounding towns too, like Seymour and Oxford. They all wanted to do boot drives for my family. And there was so much support from everyone, and I don't know how anyone found out about this. but they had the most probably impact on me, kind of pushing me to my limits and just kind of showing me that like life isn't promised to anyone. And with me not knowing if tomorrow's ever going to be my last day, especially with this heart disease, I have no idea. And
Yeah.
they kind of know that better than I do, and they know that I'm sometimes scared, but they know exactly who I am. And a person that's definitely been there for me was my dad, and he actually went through heart disease and heart surgery for unrelated issues. It wasn't genetic, so he went through it, and he's definitely my best friend. God, probably he's probably the best person that has ever walked into anyone's life. I think that he is such a role model for me and my future kids and all that, and I just hope to have to for like everyone to just have someone like him in their life, and there's not enough words to explain how much that man means to me.
Right. And Bridget, the great thing about not only cheerleading, like I said, school and stuff like that, but just like what's been going on lately. You talked about applying for all your colleges, and first, another thing I should congratulate you on is I heard that you got a full ride to the University of Hartford, which is amazing. And if you choose to go there, you're going to get to go for free, which is awesome. I know you've had interest in Sacred Heart, UConn. Just talk to me a little bit about your future plans for college, and do you have an idea what you want to major in yet?
So I know exactly what I want to major in. I want to major in pediatric cardiology. So exactly what I went through. There's a lot of meaning behind it. Honestly, my entire life is the meaning. And I think that if I can just sit there and just help a kid and a family go through, this traumatic, disease, I think that just telling them like, listen, I get like I had it, and this is where I am now. I feel like just putting a smile on someone's face just from that is exactly what everyone needs in their life. Especially, my parents, they needed that when I was going through it. And that's what I want to give people. Um, and I do want to go to Sacred Heart. That's definitely my dream school.
And talk a little bit about your brother and sister, because again, you've been fortunate enough to get to have your sister as a coach, which that's she's definitely one of your biggest fans, and I know that you look up to her a lot. And your brother obviously has a strong impact on you. Just talk about them a little bit with you going through all this, because I'm sure having them talk to you all the time and be supportive, just like I said, you're never alone with this. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
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 So Megan doing cheer and actually being there, she's not my full blood sister. We're more like half sisters. That's how me and my brother are too.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really look at them like that. I think that they're, just my full sister and brother. They're amazing people. I mean, from what my brother went through in high school, it was probably so traumatic for him. And I feel like seeing everyone go through trauma in my family, especially my sister and brother, I just feel like I'm not alone. And I feel like they're always going to be my number one supporters. And my brother lived in Florida for a while, so he wasn't there a lot
Yeah.
um, through like my sophomore and junior year of high school. But I knew he was there because I would always call him all the time and stuff like that. And my brother is definitely more like me, more so like mentally. We're kind of like chilled out, stuff like that. And then me and my sister, we're the common sister relationship. We fight all the time, but since she's my sister, she's more of a best friend to me than anyone. Um,
Right. So let me ask you this, Bridget. What kind of message would you send to someone similar to your age who may be going through cancer or heart condition? Something that, the odds aren't great, but there's always hope. What kind of message would you give to them?
I think that a message I would probably give to them is just just keep going. I mean, that's not the end. It's never the end. And if people say, listen, it's over, it's never, ever over. I mean, people that go through the hardest of hard times, that's exactly who, like, you know, what life wants you to be. And, you know, what you're going through is exactly what you're supposed to be going through. I mean, you can't change it. No matter what you do, you're not going to change it. And you're always going to be going through something hard, no matter if it's today, tomorrow, or next year. But you just got to know that it's not over yet. I mean, you're going to keep going until you keep, you know, until you stop. I mean, and no one's going to stop. So I think that just fighting through it and just believing in yourself and surrounding yourself with people that, you know, believe in you, it's the best thing that you're going to do. And believing in yourself is the best thing that you're ever going to do in your entire life. And anyone who's going through this disease or cancer or anything worse than this disease or anything less than this disease, I mean, if I could give them a hug, I really would, because that's more powerful. And just having literally a heart-to-heart hug, I would love to. I mean, it's probably the best thing that you can ever do to a person is just give them a hug.
Right. So let me ask you this, Bridget. Your cheerleading career is almost coming to a close. As you mentioned, the last basketball home game's coming up. So that's going to be a very special senior night for the players and for you girls. But let me ask you 2 questions. One, is there plans to possibly cheer in college? And 2, who would you say that's maybe a freshman or sophomore right now that you see that's going to do great things in cheer or track that you've seen just by being around them the last year or so?
So my senior night's tomorrow at Derby. It's versus Emmett. Derby hasn't had the best season so far, but these kids, my God, they're pushing through. I mean, I've never seen such a determined team, and just because they lost last game by, 50 something points, they still go to practice and stuff. And I think that's amazing. I mean, the coach really has determined kids, and those kids can be an influence for the, grades coming up. And I think that Leah Lovington is probably the most influential girl that is on that team because of how positive she is. And I mean, you know her, she's just a little ball of joy. And I love her so much. She is such a ball of joy, and she can make me smile any single time of practice if I'm on the floor. And actually my best memory of her, I think recently, was after we did our first full out. I was laying on the floor and I just couldn't breathe. I was so tired and I just wanted to fall asleep right there. And she came up and she was like, "Get up, let's go. We're going to do it again." And I was like, "Leah, leave me alone." But that just shows what we need in this world is just to get back up. And she's someone that's going to really impact this entire world. And I'm going to
I believe that too. Yeah.
God, I'm going to miss her so much. Everyone needs a Leah Lovington in their life. I mean, she is such a perfect person. I mean, if perfect was a word, that's exactly her. And I don't want her to ever let go of cheer. And she, she's been through it, but she is, I really wish I was as positive as her. I mean, I wish I was surrounded by just a whole bunch of Leahs. I mean, she's so funny, and she's just an amazing person. And honestly, she deserves the entire world.
Yeah, exactly. So, Bridget, before we go, so far the first 17, 18 years of your life, you've done so many great things and you've inspired so many people. In 4 years from now, does Bridget Wright want to be a coach? Obviously, we know what you want to do in your career, but I mean, is the goal to eventually coach, or where do you see yourself in the next 4 years?
I definitely do want to stick around with cheer. Cheerleading in college, if I were to go to Sacred Heart, I'm definitely cheering there.
Yeah.
They just won a national championship, and they're amazing. I mean, I already talked to their coach and stuff, and they're, that's who I kind of want to be with. I want to be with Sacred Heart because they have such a great nursing program, and I I toured their school and I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my home. So if I go to Sacred Heart, I'm definitely going to cheer. And then I also got into the University of Louisville. So if I do go there, I'm definitely going to cheer there too. Definitely a lot of options. So I'm probably going to be cheering. And then I do want to stick with coaching in Pop Warner. Those girls, I want to have the impact that my coaches had on me, on someone else.
Right. Well, Bridget, this was a real honor for me today. I appreciate you coming on. First off, congratulations on everything you've accomplished in school, cheering. But I got to tell you, I didn't really know everything that you've had to deal with throughout your life until recently. And I got to say that how you conduct yourself and what you do each and every day and the positivity you have is just unbelievable. And I congratulate you for that, for always staying positive and always going after your dreams. So thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, folks. You got to see Bridget Wright today. You saw for an hour just what an amazing person this kid is. A very talented cheerleader, outstanding student, 4-time national champ, 3-time undefeated champ, all state, all NVL, 1-time grand national champion. I mean, all those accomplishments are impressive. What she's done in her 17 years on this earth is just amazing. But I think the thing that's most remarkable about Bridget Wright is what she's had to deal with over the years. You would never know it by when you talk to her. She's positive each and every day, and she doesn't let anything stand in her way. She is going to beat anything that comes in her path. She's not afraid. She takes everything head on. She knows there's challenges in life, but she's ready for all of them. And to me, that's what makes a hometown hero. For Hometown Heroes, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.